All right, welcome to Podcast Live with yours truly, Rafael Kalamat, here in Toronto. And on today's show, we have Mike Bleackley from Evolve Creative Solutions in Vancouver, also a VGT member. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Ralph. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how's your weekend?
It was great. I watched a lot of the Bermuda Championship.
Nice,
Uh,
nice.
Won a small amount of money on DraftKings. Some good picks.
I
Had
wish I
six
could
guys make the
say the
cut.
same. You won? How much
Yeah,
did you
you
win?
got a close one. I won $50 from five.
Sweet. Well, look, I wish I could say the same. That didn't happen to me. I'm on Bodog, and I put down a few dollars on our Canadian boy Taylor Pendrith, but that didn't work out. But you do anything for Halloween, or are we still all locked down in Vancouver as well? It's not so great here in Toronto.
There is some restrictions in place, to put
Yeah,
it that way. Things are open um, to a certain degree. Things are back, but they require passports and
yeah,
no dancing and all kinds of odd footloose era type restrictions.
yeah.
Is the best way I can say that.
Yeah. Well, all jokes aside, I guess you're not wearing your Halloween costume. But
No,
speaking of trick or treat, Mr. Greg Norman, the Shark, is the new commissioner of the Unknown Asian Tour League. I don't know what to call it. There's been so much speculation on what's going on, but it's a new Asian tour for those of you listening or watching, and there's lots to unpack here, Mike. Right? There's
there is.
so much with this tour. Essentially, let's get this right. So there's Saudis involved. They funded this tour. I think the company's called Live Investments Inc. And they're partnering with the FedEx Tour. I guess it's sort of like a FedEx Cup style partnership. Rumor has it they're going on for a partnership for 10 years. So this is no
Mhm.
laughing matter.
That's
This is a
right.
big deal. And we're talking not about a few million, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. Actually, Greg Norman is dropping his CEO position for Greg Norman Incorporated and taking this position. So he's taking this very seriously.
That's correct. And from what I'm reading, there's going to be 10 events throughout the Asian Tour. And the Super Golf League, which is Dubai backed league, is coming to fruition. From what I've read, and seeing Lee Westwood is calling this a no-brainer. He's saying
Lee
at
Westwood,
48
is
years
that the
old.
rumor? Like, I didn't hear any players attached to this yet, so that's interesting.
Well, he's I believe because he's 48 and he doesn't need to be a PGA Tour member. And from what I'm understanding, there's going to be sanctions from the PGA Tour for
Right.
anybody who decides to join this tour. So this could be really interesting and dramatic as it unfolds.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Can you imagine? They're all independent contractors. I know they have a commitment to the PGA Tour. They have to play a certain amount of events. But imagine being someone like Dustin Johnson, for example, and he's going to
Yes,
say, "What do you mean I can't go over and make $10 million or $1 million or whatever?" Like, I don't think it's going to in their best interest. However, I guess they're competitors. They will be competitors, but there's no convenience. Look at what happened in Japan. A lot of guys didn't go down and they're playing for $10 million and they still had a hard time. I know we're in the pandemic and everything, but I can't see outside of the majors and the players, and there's some really big events. It's going to take a lot to get these players down. And maybe that's not what they want to do. Maybe they just want it to be a more developmental tour, right?
it's when they're putting this kind of money into it, they're going to want to have marquee players, in my opinion, anyway, right?
Yep.
But I see the PGA Tour being a tough nut to crack. Like we said before, it's a bit of an old boys club,
Yep.
and what they say is going to carry a lot of weight. So we may not see some of the big marquee names run off to play this tour because of the financial penalties that could be involved. So we have to look at what's a better opportunity, playing the PGA Tour the WGC, which is separate, we know, but they go that route, this or they ostracize themselves and go play this new tour. So I think maybe some of the young players might get attracted and move over into Saudi Asian Tour collaboration, which so maybe some of the young guns we see grow up out there, which would be really interesting. But I have a feeling it's going to be hard pressed before seeing McIlroy and Koepka and all these guys go battle it out over there, because there's a ton of money on the PGA Tour right now. So if these guys can't play for the FedEx Cup, and like win the FedEx Cup, that's like $18 million in your pocket. So there's some big decisions for these guys to make.
Yeah, because really it's a launch pad for younger guys, like you said. However, Greg's got a lot of pull. Now you look at guys like Adam Scott, other Australian players. I can't think of anybody at the top of my head who would do that right now. But look at even Jason Day, I suppose. Who hasn't been playing too well.
He's getting long in the tooth and some injuries, and
they're still getting. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if he struggles for status on the tour, perhaps he starts to look at the Saudi leagues. Right.
And then there's world golf rankings, and I think this was the biggest problem the Saudis had with. And by the way, the company's called Live Investments, so that's the Saudi company, I think. And that was the problem they were having, the world golf rankings, and then the PGA Tour collaborated with the European Tour. So now the Scottish Open is part of the circuit. So everybody's going to be going to Scotland the week before the Open. And this being the 150th anniversary of the Open, it's going to be a really big deal over in St. Andrews. And they're supposed to launch this like next year, as early as January and February. I'm not sure how, but I guess they're just going to throw it out there, and they're going to put this huge purse and see what happens. Either that, or the players are going to have to get waivers from the PGA Tour to play if they're not allowed, like some sort of special exemption of sorts. But back in the day, I don't know if you remember, Mike, but Greg Norman had some long talks with Tim Finchem about doing the World Tour. And so I don't know if he has an axe to grind here with this. I don't think so. But, this was a talk long time. Greg Norman was shut down because, he's business savvy. He's got so many things going on.
He's almost more of a competitor business-wise than he was in the golf course. So he's done very well from wines to golf apparel. Lots of options. So he's going to go at this aggressive. He's probably going to have success to some degree. It's just a matter of what. Who's he going to be able to pull over? Who can he get to buy into this tour from the PGA? So is it going to be a bunch of the 40-somethings like Lee Westwood? No doubt Lee would take a golden handshake to come over and be an ambassador for this new tour in golf, I'm sure. And this could be, looking at the positives. Perhaps it grows the game in Asia, grows it through Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and in that part of the world. Could open up some great travel destinations, could expose golf to other people that may never have had a chance to see it. Golf is extremely popular in Asia, Japan, Korea. It's exploding in China. So there could be a great upside to this, and maybe creates that step towards the World Tour.
I agree with you 100%. Look, we've got a couple of things to cover. This weekend was unbelievable. I know a lot of players didn't go out to the Bermuda Championship. However, what a beautiful golf course. What a great place to go. But, I think due to the restrictions, the players had a hard time making that decision of going down there and being double vaccinated, then getting checked for COVID. Now, if you tested positive, that means you'd have to quarantine there for 2 weeks. And a lot of these players were coming in from Japan as well. But it gave an opportunity for a lot of players ranked from, let's say, 150 to 250 to jump in there and play in an event where you have 500 FedEx points, $1.2 million for first place, you know, a 2-year exemption, you get entry into the Masters, the PGA Championship, and who comes up on top? Lucas Herbert. Some people might say, who? Well,
Exactly.
you know, but last year he had a pretty good season. Last year he won over at Dubai and I think the Irish Open. He's 25 years old. He's a young guy. And hey, are we going to start talking President's Cup early on?
Well, this is a huge jumpstart to this kid's season. I'm saying kid, he's 25 years old, so to me, he sounds like one. But
Yeah.
he held it together pretty good. You know, I watched all of Sunday, most of Saturday, and you know, for one, I love watching these guys play in brutal conditions like that because I've experienced many tournaments in conditions like this where you're hoping they're going to get canceled.
Yeah.
While you're out there suffering, and just to see the difficulty that the conditions bring and how it separates the field, right? Like Taylor Pendrith, definitely, you know, I would think the weather was a factor for these guys, you know, and as much as we would have liked to see him pull it off, especially you, you know, Lucas played a solid final round.
Yeah, he did. You know, speaking of Taylor Pendrith, look, you can't take away the fact that the kid shot 61. You know, uh, I know he shot 76 on Sunday, but it was brutal conditions. Can you imagine the nerves he had? Now he's a 30-year-old rookie, but he's never been in that position. I mean,
Nope.
it's his, you know, I don't know which start it is for him on the PGA Tour. Probably like he's up there close to 10, maybe 15 starts, most of which are at the Canadian Open, by the way.
Right.
And but he was 17 under going into Sunday with a 3-shot lead, shoots 76, the double on 17, 2 balls in the water, man. What a catastrophe. It was a disaster for anybody. I hope he could just shake it off and move on because, as you know, and you know, I've played events as well. You know, back in the day, I played the Ben Hogan Tour. Speaking of weather, we used to play in March, and it was basically a dog track. I mean, and muddy, it's wet and rain. For those of you who are American or any other part of the world, conditions in spring and fall are pretty bad in Canada. They're not so great. We got a peak season about 5 months. And yeah, it's really tough. And in Vancouver, I lived in Vancouver. We played a lot together back in the day. And it gets rainy and windy, so you'd be used to these conditions more than I ever have been. But
Well, out here we play all year. Our season, it maybe it comes to an end for a short period of time. If we have a good dry fall, there's plenty of golf to be had, and I've got some crazy golf friends out here. We'll go out and play in trash weather, and I find it's excellent for tournaments, character building. You go out and you know how to play in these tough conditions. So when you do get forced to play in a tournament, you're, I find, mentally prepared for the ugliness of the day. And like Jack Nicklaus famously says in the past, you know, you're beating 90% of the field on a day like that if you can keep your mind right and be focused and try and find some way to enjoy that that tournament. So yeah, out here we do get longer season than you do in Ontario, but it can be cold and wet and drizzling, and which makes it tough. And we're also at sea level, so the ball doesn't travel very far
right.
here at sea level. So there's a lot of variables out here.
Yeah, well, we had a bunch of Canadians over in Bermuda too. But it was exciting to watch. I'll tell you, it's more exciting to watch those type of conditions because you rarely see it on tour, especially on a Sunday. So you would see it out, I guess, in the UK, and you know, sometimes out on the West Coast when they're playing Pebble Beach or Torrey Pines, you get that kind of marine layer that comes in with some wind and rain, but nothing like the way it was in Bermuda. The winds were really howling. But he did shoot 61. He's got a lot to be proud of. Just got married. He's been living out of Corey Connor's place supposedly for the longest
Oh, really?
time. Yeah, he just got a new place, so good for him. A lot of great things are happening for him. We're going to see a lot with him. Me, for myself, being an instructor and a student of the game and watching his swing with that, you sort of got a very upright takeaway and a very shallow and neutral follow through, but he hits it, a country mile.
Oh, he absolutely bombs it, which is great to see a swing that's not textbook. We'll put it that way, and it's good to see that creativity and a different type of golf swing generating that power. And I think there's nothing but positives for him to take away from last weekend. And much as the pain of shit in the bed on a Sunday, there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong that happens. It's a hard game, and those battle wounds. You need to go through it. So next time he will hopefully have learned from that and has other opportunities to close one out. But how he played to get himself into the final group on Sunday is what he's got to take home from that,
Yeah.
which was excellent golf. And
Yeah.
that could happen to anybody. And 17, he was probably trying to make something happen and get that eagle and try to contend, and overhooked it into the water. As much as I want to say he should have hit his bomb 3-iron out there short of the bunker, and but
It's so easy to say when you're sitting in your living room chair or you're in bed watching the event. It's kind of easy to say, right? But when you're in the moment, who knows what's running through his head, him and his caddy, especially with those conditions. But look, some notables as well. Look at Brian Gay. Comes back, shoots 10 under, T12. He loves this place. He's played really well with his win last year. Hold it in on 18. Then you got Scott Stallings. Just blows the whole thing. I don't know what course he was playing, but not the same course everybody else was playing.
He was in his own gear that day. That was an unbelievable round for him to shoot 61 while the field was, he was 10 shots ahead of the field.
I think so.
Or 62?
I don't know. I think it was a 62. I'm not sure, but it was a T5 at the end of the day. And then all of a sudden, Patrick Reed, 65, closes 14, 17, and 18 with birdies, right?
Yep. And Patrick Reed is a grinder, and I find he is one of the best players to have on your DraftKings team, wherever you do your pool. Yep. Patrick Reed is always a safe pick. You like him or not, that doesn't matter. You know how it goes. If you try to pick players you love, you're never going to win any money. So Patrick Reed, though, he always delivers.
And how about Danny Lee? I don't think I remember seeing him win anything since the 2015 Greenbriar, unless I'm wrong. But I don't. It's been a while. And then he was, you looked at 12, 13, and 14. He bogeys those, and then he comes back with 15, 16, and 17 with birdies. And it's sort of like an out of we've all been there, out of body experience. You start just shooting like balls left and right, start playing some military golf, and then it all comes together again, right? But to do that on a Sunday with those conditions, pretty great. Might be able to see some nice things from Danny again.
Well, a few things with Danny. First, I had him in my DraftKings team, so I was a big fan of him moving forward, and was cursing him a little bit on his mishap there in the back nine, but he picked it up. And if you notice, he's not known to be a long hitter, because I believe he was averaging 285. He was a shorter hitter for these days in golf. But you look at his swing, he's been actually there's some resemblance to Bryce and to Chamblee. On the 18th tee box on round 3.
Was that round 3 where he jumped out of his shoes?
Oh yeah, that looked like he was practicing Ducharme in the mirror, trying to squeeze some yards out of there. And he admittedly been working very hard on his putting the last month, and this just goes to show that results with golf are well rewarded when you put the time in. And he played great, to bounce back and have a shot at perhaps getting to a playoff. after going 4 over and 3 holes was really remarkable.
Yep. No, it was exciting. It was fun to watch. I can't wait till the season kind of starts up for all the big names and players. So we should be seeing that shortly. And just to switch gears, Mike, it's really great to do this with you, right? To do this podcast, to talk golf, because we've been talking golf for 20 plus years. And to finally have a platform where we could have this conversation, where people could kind of get involved with us and reach out to us. And because we're not the only ones doing this, it's great that we could go on YouTube or other places and watch these types of podcasts. If you look at CBS with the first cut, you got Rick, Isaac Gehman and Greg Ducharme, Mark Immelman, and Kyle Porter. They've got some great analysis. I love watching them. And then you got Gary Williams, just started off the show a couple of weeks ago. Interesting enough, you'll have Greg Norman on very shortly, but that's called Five Clubs Golf. So that's really cool. Yes. But that's a really independent thing. Then you got Riggs, all those guys at Barstool Golf doing an amazing job doing all that they do for the sport. And
fantastic.
My new friend Mark Zechinno with Golf Talk Canada. Obviously, he does it online, but he also does TSN. That's incredible. Doug Smith and Will Lowry for the Golf Channel. Finally, a breath of fresh air. You got a lot of dinosaurs over at the Golf Channel. No, I don't want to put those guys down, but sometimes I feel like I'm falling asleep. Sometimes they need some younger guys, a different perspective. And so, traditional media, great. I love it. I love the production value, obviously, because this is not huge production value, but I'm hoping this is an interesting conversation to a lot of people who don't know about golf or learning about it or just want to hear a different perspective. Brandel Chamblee, Rich Lerner, Justin Lenard. We talked about that before. And I don't mind guys like Whit Watson, but look at someone like Conor Moore, who does all those impersonations, and he's got a good perspective on golf. They put him on GolfPass when he should be on network television. So, Conor, if you're out there, good job.
Yeah, we're pulling for you, Conor. You got to step up to the big leagues because we need you. And you're right. Like there are some great commentators like Faldo and Fairway are incredibly witty sometimes.
But they're held back, right? They're a little held back.
That's the culture today, right? It's the social justice warrior / outrage culture. These announcers have to be extremely careful with what they with their jokes because somebody's going to get offended. So that has to be a factor that with these guys. And remember years ago, Kelly Tillman slipped talking about Tiger, right? And she meant nothing by it. And did apologize very quickly for it. And even I was like, "Ooh, Kelly, that one's going to cost." That was about 10 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, that was over in Hawaii at one of the events, either Kapalua or
something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it got swept under the rug fairly quickly, thankfully. But had she said that within the last year or two, she would have been canceled immediately.
It's part of what we call cancel culture these days. I don't want to dive into it too much because it's kind of heavy. It's hard to talk about. Yeah. But people should have the freedom of expression. I mean, journalists and media, and I feel like people are entitled to their opinion. It may not always be wrong or right, but there's a way to go about it. And if something is said wrong, there's always there's a place for it to apologize or, to have some reflection and talk about it. But, spur of the moment, you and I are talking. We don't mean anything bad by what we're saying. We just have an opinion, right? So the fact that I'm not crazy about seeing, Lisa Cornwell or Todd Lewis on television, I don't mean anything by it. But they're very professional. They do a great job. But you introduced me to a funny guy online, the ClubPro guy. Is that his name? I saw some.
Guy. Yes. This guy is absolutely hilarious. And he's created a massive following with his deadpan humor, his mock post-round interviews, and he blurs his face out, and he's created a bunch of characters around him with McGill, his greenskeeper, and his triple mask wearing club manager, and he's brilliant. He has a deadpan delivery and really satirical about the golf industry and the days, the ins and outs of what a club pro is going to see. He has a great way of mocking that, and
Cool.
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I've
highly
seen some of
recommend
those skits where he comes back from a regular like men's league or something and talks about his triple bogeys and stuff, and
it. Oh yeah,
he's answering media questions. Pretty funny stuff. But that's
there's another.
it's refreshing, right? It's great to see
Oh,
that
for
kind of
sure.
stuff.
And he's been talking about building a golf course, Three Jack National,
Yep.
and I thought it was satirical again. And his video he posted yesterday seems to be like they're laying sand out, and I'm starting to wonder if he's actually making a golf course. I've been meaning to do a bit of a deeper dive in there because that would be unbelievable if he ends up carving out his own golf course and kind of living every golfer's dreams, right, to have their own track. So,
Right on, right on. Well, we don't have too much time. However, we're going to jump into one last topic, and that's off-season training. It's off-season up here in Canada. I don't know where it's off-season elsewhere, but I guess the northern United States and parts of Europe. Uh, and there's a lot of stuff that we could do for the golf season, the off-season, so to speak. I've always worked on things like your grip, your stance, your posture, ball position, your alignment, and then you could always do weight and strength training. Uh, you know, fiddle around with the clubs, get some new clubs, do some simulator stuff. So much technology out there and cool apps. I don't know if you have any off the
absolutely.
top of your head. For as far as apps, but
There's a great app called Decade Golf.
oh
It's a
yeah,
free app, and a friend of mine turned me on to it, and it's put together obviously by a teaching pro, and he's assembled some really interesting videos. He's curated his own selection of videos, and it's free for the most part. There's obviously a subscription tier for more information, but I find that one's pretty good. But the off season's a good time to work on your body, right? So like you said, everything related to setup and all of that. And you being in Ontario where there's snow on the ground, things are closed, so
yeah,
you are limited in what you can do in terms of golf itself. But your body is something that is the main driving engine behind every shot. So the Titleist Performance Institute has got
yeah.
some great exercises that you can do, and even in the comfort of your home with bands, and you don't need a lot of equipment to do these things. A lot of it involves, like I said, simple band works and plyometrics, and you can really do a lot of good for your body during the off season. And there's plenty of good videos. You can follow TPI on Instagram and YouTube, and you get a lot of information for free. But if you know a TPI coach in your
Yep.
neighborhood, it's well worth it.
Yeah, even on GolfPass, they've got a lot of great exercises and things you could do, not only for your for stretching and for strength training, but also for nutrition. And you could always get some new threads, get some new clothing, get a new bag. Set yourself
Yeah,
up so when you feel like you're going out and starting up your season again, even getting, re-gripping your clubs, checking your loft
yeah,
and your lie on your clubs, maybe reshafting a few things. So it's a time to tinker, a time to fool around and get your
yeah,
game in shape. I mean, nutrition too. I mean,
yeah.
I'd love to get my strength up, but I want to lose a little bit of weight. Especially we're getting to our age.
Yeah.
We're in our late 40s, getting ready for the Champions Tour. Isn't every guy in their 40s getting ready for the Champions Tour?
That's the dream, right?
Yep.
We all think we can do it, but the Champions Tour is getting stronger and stronger by the week. So, it's a lofty dream. But there is a lot you can do for your golf game, and you said it with how many people do you know that have an old set of grips on their club that has nothing left on it, and that's one of the cheapest investments you can do
Yep.
to your golf bag. Is just change new grips. It's like getting new tires on your car.
Yep.
It's going to feel great. You should always get your loft and lie angles checked, because if you have forged clubs, they change. The more you hit balls, especially at the range, those lofts and lies change. So those are low hanging fruit and very inexpensive enhancements you can do to your game in the off season. You don't necessarily have to spend thousands on a new bag. For a few $100, you can get your grips done, get a little bit of time with a pro on the TrackMan, and check your lofts and lies, and you'd be amazed at the difference. In fact, I did that last year, and my swing changed a little bit with some of the hip rotational work I've been doing, and I went in to see Austin Hughes over here at Rob Holding Golf Center in Richmond. And we spent about an hour and a half going through my irons, and I moved everything down 2 degrees flat, and immediately I noticed a difference out on the golf course where I was hitting the ball straight down my target line rather than pulling left. And a lot of my misses I find I was missing the green left on approaches, and it turns out it was time to switch my angles.
Yeah.
So I made a huge, so and it literally was well worth the time.
So Mike, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember? So for those of you watching or listening, Mike and I used to be old roommates back in the late '90s, and we had a house where we pitched up the stairs, we chipped all over the house, we putted, we made a lot of holes, but there's things you could do at home to work on your game. So small chipping, getting a basket, getting a golf hole, especially working with your alignment, and getting your pre-shot routine in check, and getting that right. Looking down your line, depending on the putter that you have, whether you have a blade or a mallet. But working inside the house is a lot of fun, or the backyard. And I think we're going to end it at that, unless you want to jump in and say something else about pre-shot routine, or getting your game ready for the off season or the on season.
Well, I think you've touched on a lot of stuff there, but you're right. Indoors, just simple drills. Like there is a impact position drill where you put your club head up against a door frame or a corner of a wall, turn your core into the door frame, holding the club against that corner. It allows you to feel impact, and it's a great drill that an old coach, Todd Spring, taught me years and years ago, and it's something that's stuck in my mind, and I'll use that as a reference point if I'm doing stuff at home. But I think we covered a lot on that topic.
Yeah. You know what? I just gonna leave it at this. Get your grips changed. Like that's like, it almost feels like you have new clubs, right? Whether you have like a 10-finger grip, interlocking. What's the other one? Overlapping, double overlap. Work on your grip, even when you're watching TV or you're watching us on this podcast. Listen, guys, thanks for tuning in. It's been great to have you watch. Mike, what can I say? Thanks for having you on again. We're going to do this a lot more. I've been talking about this for a long time. We're going to get some great guests. So for those of you watching, we're going to have not only instructors, we're going to get tour players on. We're going to get some great sponsors talking about technology. And just stay tuned. Just make sure you subscribe. I don't want to sound so typical about how everyone talks about, subscribe, ring the bell, but, it really helps. Press here or there, or, and, you can follow us. If you want to support us, get in touch with us. If you want to get some sponsorship in, or even any kind of sponsorship through Patreon, you can go to the information down at the link somewhere around on YouTube, for Mike Bleackley in Vancouver, I'm Rafael Kalamat. You're watching or listening to Podcast Live. Take care, Mike. See you, everybody.
Hey, Raf. Take care, buddy. Bye.